I knew I wouldn't be going in order with these, like chronological order of when they were released or whatever. I just go with whatever I feel like talking about. And this time we're going to be talking about Princess Mononoke. Mainly because I have things I want to talk about with this one, more than the others currently. Once again, the animation is beautiful. It is beautiful. I will never knock Miyazaki for any animation things. They're always good. The color is always amazing and always stands out. It always pops. Everything looks great with what this guy does. He is a magician of animation, and it shows. What I will talk about, though, is the villain in this one. I believe the villain/antagonist in this film is probably the worst one in every single out of any Miyazaki film I've ever seen. Not to say that this villain is bad by any means. It's just I question their motivations sometimes. They seem to take turns, like just sudden sharp 180 turns that you don't expect out of this character. I've seen this movie a couple times now, and I continue to think it's the antagonist that I usually have a contention with. Everything else looks great, except for maybe, yeah, I could talk about Mononoke's too. I could talk about Mononoke. You'll have to forgive me if you hear me clearing my throat sometimes. I'm still getting over this cold. Though I might think it's sinusitis now, because I've had a lot of sinus pressure in my face. Feels like there's a singularity in the middle of my head, and the gravity from this singularity is pushing everything inward. But that seems to be going away now. So all that's left is a runny nose. Ooh, goody. Anyways, so the two big points I'd like to talk about this film is Princess Mononoke, the character, and the villain, whose name I can never remember, so I'm just going to call her Lady Irontown, since she's the leader of Irontown. So she's going to be Lady Irontown, and the girl is going to be Princess Mononoke, because of course it's on the cover. How are you going to forget her name? This is kind of a catch. This is kind of a catch-22, though, because you see here the name Princess Mononoke. You think maybe she's the main character. Maybe this is her movie, right? No, it's Ashitaka's movie. Ashitaka right here. He's the main character. He's the main focus of this film, and he's an excellent character. He's written really well. This guy is selfless to the core, but he tends to act out of good intentions violently, and there's a message of pacifism in this movie, because you see at the very beginning of this film there seems to be a creature, a demonic boar, that seems to be heading straight towards Ashitaka's home village. Ashitaka kills this demon boar, but not before the demon boar infects him with whatever curse this creature seemed to have been fallen under. His village elder proclaims that he is cursed and that he must leave the village. But he wouldn't have gotten cursed if he didn't act to save his village and his sister. His sister being a character who was picking food out in the fields. She was gathering food out in the fields with a couple other ladies of the village. And the boar was heading straight for them to attack them, to probably kill them. Ashitaka was out there in the wilderness, and he just happened to be there to save them. His actions were wholeheartedly selfless. He kept shouting at the boar not to attack his village. He kept trying to seek reason with the creature, but the creature wouldn't see reason. The creature was beyond reason at that point. It was filled with hate and rage. So really, I applaud Ashitaka for his actions, but he gets punished for it. He gets banished from his village even though the curse on his arm is not like an infectious virus that's going to attack other people. But the elder does say that this virus will eventually grow to consume him. And once he has been consumed, then he will become contagious. Because whatever those little tendrils on the boar demon were, those could grab other people, and those people could become infected with it. So yeah, there is that. So he's banished, and he must leave with his trusty steed, which is like this elk creature. I have no clue. It looks like an elkish creature, so we're just gonna call it that. I forget what he calls it as well. It has a name, but I'm terrible with names. I remember his name, Hashitaka, because everybody keeps shouting it over and over and over and over, so of course I'm eventually gonna remember it. Anyways, he rides on his trusty steed, about to leave the village, and his sister gives him a locket of some sort of little amulets to remember her by. Now, this is one of those Chekhov's gun moments here, but it's not going to be used too well-ish by any means, at least in my opinion. Because this is a keepsake of his sister, somebody he is never going to see again, because they have banished him. Even if he deals with this curse, even if he cures himself from it, he can never return home. They have banished him, and he's supposed to be the prince/leader of this village. That is some freaking messed up crap. Call your culture what you will, I don't believe that stuff. That's basically saying, oh, you're sick. Well, get out of here and never come back. Even if you get cured, we don't want you here anymore. That's one. I like to try to respect these types of cultures, but there's some things that I just don't agree with. You don't abandon one of your own like that. You don't do that. You don't just abandon one of your own like that, and especially one who has acted purely in your defense all the way up until this point. But whatever. They kick him out. He can never return. He's cut his hair in a ceremoniously humiliating way, because, you know, there's that culture thing again, when they have these little tails and they cut that hair, and that's supposed to be a mark of extreme shame, and they can never return to this life. Which is sad. It's very sad for this guy. There's a trope in film and writing and all that stuff called kick the cutie. If you want to know what that means, go to TV tropes and look up kick the cutie. What kick the cutie means is basically a trope where you have a character that you just make a lot of bad things happen to them over and over. Just a lot of bad things befall them, sometimes for no reason. They just have a lot of misfortune piled on them, and they just have to get through it. And it's sad, it really is. So he's off in the forest, heading towards the west, because the elder lady said that there's a contentious evil growing in the west, and maybe he'll find a cure for his curse there. So he heads off into the forest to meet the spirit of the forest, and I like all of that stuff, all of this spirituality, the spirit of the forest, and all that's done really well. There's some kodamas in the forest, which look really nice. It's all just done really well. So as Ashitaka's scrolling through, he comes out to these little rice plains or whatever, and he sees a clan of swordsmen attacking some farmers. So he has no stake in this land, but he still ends up attacking the violent party to defend the defenseless party. Again, a heroic action. But whenever this kid acts with violence, you see that the curse on his arm grows. He obtains extreme levels of strength that people call him a demon for. But every time he exhibits these levels of strength, It's a defense of something, and you agree with him. At least I did. I agreed with him defending those defenseless farmers from these attacking swordsmen. He fires his arrows at them, and he messes them up. His aim is dead on, dead center. So the swordsmen are driven off, and he runs off as well, because his arm curse is starting to grow. He's heading for the river spirit, hoping to, not the river spirit, the spirit of the forest, to ask it to cure his curse. All along the way, he gets hurt, trying to defend Princess Mononoke. But this is a fair bit later on. But I want to talk about it right now, because all of his selfless actions up to this point, and then he finally asks the river spirit for aid. And the river spirit does cure him of his wound, but not of his curse. Basically saying, you're dying. You're about to die right now. I'll save you from that so that you could die a couple days later. Maybe it's because he hasn't learned what he needed to learn at this moment, but I don't know. The village elder that kicked him out says that he has to go to this conflict to see with eyes unclouded by hate. And throughout the entire picture, he does see through eyes unclouded by hate. He attacks the violent parties attacking the non-violent parties. He always attacks the violent party with violence to protect the defenseless, and that does seem to be eyes unclouded by hate. It's basically eyes attacking hate. But maybe they're saying that hate attacking hate is no good. Maybe they're saying that we should just put our weapons away and let violent parties kill us. I'm sorry, I'm not a major pacifist in that regard. I don't believe in being the first one to strike. I don't believe in being the first person to attack people. But I wholeheartedly believe in defending yourself or defending the helpless when there's a violent party attacking you or them. You should fend them off. Because if you don't, they'll kill you. They'll kill you. They don't practice this pacifism that you try to keep hold to yourself. So you have to do something about it. Because if you don't, they'll kill you. It's that simple. But this curse of his means that whenever he tries to do that, the curse keeps growing and it starts killing him more. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. But maybe I don't understand the point of this film, so I'm not gonna knock points off of this film for things that I don't understand. I just feel differently about it. So we're gonna move on. He eventually makes his way to Irontown after saving some people from a skirmish that he witnessed. This time from people fighting each other. Both sides are fighting each other. He eventually saves some of those soldiers who fell down into a river, that fell down the waterfall or whatever. He saves those people from that fate and guides them back to their home village. And these people are very grateful for him. They're very grateful for him saving those two miners or whatever from that fate. They eventually have him meet Lady Irontown, and Lady Irontown gives him a grand tour of the place. Basically, this whole scene is basically telling you what a good person Lady Irontown is. She buys off enslaved women, frees them, and has them work in factories and things of that nature as free wage earning people. They're basically equal to the men, which I liked. I liked that part. That's great for this time period. That's amazing to see. Probably because in her past she might have been one of those people who clawed her way out of that life and wants nobody else to ever have to witness that type of life again. And I am all for seeing that. And then she takes you off to the people who are making all of her weapons. They are lepers. She has basically employed lepers who have been left out by society, left to die by everybody because nobody wants anything to do with them. But she basically employs them, feeds them, gives them a home, all that stuff, in exchange for them making their weapons for her. And again, another thing that you can agree with her, that you could say, that's awesome. But then something else happens. Now, she has a vendetta against the forest for reasons. She does deforestation. She's all for industrialization of Irontown, expanding, going into a mine to get some ore and iron, to build more stuff, build the industrial machine up even more. But then the forest, the animals and all that stuff, they attack her people for that. And she gets angry at the forest for not letting her get her way, so to speak. Maybe she just doesn't understand the spirits of the forest, but she fully does. You eventually learn that she fully understands the spirits of the forest. She knows exactly what these things are, but she just doesn't care. She believes humanity is above nature. She believes humanity is above spirits and all that stuff. But that's not where my problem is. I can fully accept that type of belief system in an antagonist, and why she would be against all the spirits and wanting to wipe out the spirit of the forest so that the forest would no longer impede her industrialization. I can get behind that. But what I can't get behind is the fact that this woman, Lady Irontown is her baby. It is her baby. She loves the people here. This whole scene with this opening segment with her is supposed to tell you how much she values the people here, how important they are to her. Now, what happens next is a bit of a confusing notion. A rival clan who wants some of the industrialization profits that she's starting to get, I think they're called the Asano clan. The Asano clan comes, messengers, representatives, in peace. They're not being violent right now, and they're trying to negotiate peace. And Lady Irontown just attacks them. She has her forces attack them and tell them to piss off. Now, anybody who's anybody in a form of strategic mindset, brains, and all that crap would imagine that if you were to do something like that, the next logical course that the Asano clan would take would be to declare war on you, right? That's just logic, right? The Asano clan will declare war on you. And where do you think they're going to attack first? Probably the very next day. That's right, Irontown. So what does Lady Irontown do the very next day? She takes every able-bodied fighter in her town and all of these mercenaries that she had hired, and she just empties Irontown of all its defenses, leaving only the frail and the women behind. Now, we've already seen that the women can take care of themselves so they can handle themselves, but there's not as many of them as compared to the sheer amount of forces that she took with her away from Irontown. She left it minimally defended when an entire army of the Asano clan was going to attack the very next day. You could probably argue, oh, she wasn't thinking about that. Her mind was too focused on the spirit of the forest, and she had to take care of that first. But That's not the type of Lady Irontown you saw when you saw her giving you that tour of the place. This is the type of Lady Irontown who believed in her people, who would protect her people before anything and everything else. But here she is, just leaving them open to attack. So what happens? Well, the Asano clan attacks. The Asano clan breaks the siege. The Asano clan hurts a lot of the people. The first line of defense falls, and the people inside have to seclude themselves even further into the town to defend themselves. They're running out of weapons, they're running out of a lot of things. And Ashitaka shows up to help them, and they say to go get Lady Irontown so that she can come and save them. And I know I'm skipping large portions of the story. I'll get to them eventually. I'm talking about Lady Irontown right now, though. So Ashitaka makes his way to Lady Irontown and says, "Hey, your town's under attack. If you don't go back soon, they're going to destroy it." Lady Irontown says, "Oh well, they have to defend themselves now. They're on their own. I'm doing this stuff first." What? That's completely at 180 to the character that you showed us! And then they try to make it look like, oh, the mercenary leader is deceiving her. He's using her. And I'm over here going like, what? This lady that you have written to be incredibly smart against deceptions like this, who knows what she values, suddenly makes a 180 thinking that Irontown's garbage compared to this? That she wants the reward from the Emperor for delivering the head of the forest spirit over her town, everything that gives her any semblance of power? And I'm just over here going like, what? The motives here I can't suspend my disbelief. This is too big of a shift from her character for me to get behind. And I feel that could have been done better. She could have been written a little bit better. Now let's talk about Princess Mononoke, the other big thing I'd like to talk about with this movie. Princess Mononoke is a plot device. She's not a character. She barely has any semblance of character. Princess Mononoke represents the forest, even though she's a human. She was raised by the wolf spirit. She's supposed to represent the forest and that nature way of life. Though she's supposed to be that bridge that brings the two worlds together. At least that's what I think it should have been. Ashitaka has a fascination with her immediately. As soon as he sees her in the forest, he saves her in Irontown when she goes to attack Irontown and inevitably gets captured. So he saves her from making a big mistake in killing Lady Irontown, only to just be killed by Lady Irontown's forces, which would then just have the mercenary leader just take over and attack the forest spirit anyways. It's just... So Ashitaka saves her from that fate and gets wounded for his troubles. And he takes her into the forest, where Mononoke sees that Ashitaka is growing too weak and he's dying, and he takes her to the forest spirit to be healed, to be saved. And then Ashitaka is resting for a few days, and Princess Mononoke hasn't left his side at all, not even once. Well, that's fine. That's dandy. But as soon as Ashitaka awakes and learns that, oh, Mononoke hasn't left his side at all, so shows that she cares for him, because he saved her, he stopped her from getting her revenge on the woman that she had been wanting to kill all the way up to this point. You'd think she'd be pretty mad about that, But no, she cares for him now. She cares for him now a great deal. This is coming after Castle in the Sky, showing you that Miyazaki knows how to make a boy meets girl story. He knows how to make it incredibly well. But here, Hashitaka's written very strongly. But by contrast, Princess Mononoke feels a lot very inferior as a character. We don't get to see her motivations as strongly. We don't get to see what goes on in her head. We don't get to see her struggles half the time. A lot of the stuff that she does ends up being off screen while we focus primarily on Ashitaka. This is Ashitaka's story, after all. But the movie is called Princess Mononoke, so you should justify the title with making the film centered, at least in some part, around her, even if Ashitaka is the main character. Does that make sense? That's how I feel about it, at any rate. She's a great character, she's a great idea, she's a great plot device, but there's actions and sentiments that she eventually gets that just don't feel genuine. They don't feel earned. It kind of feels like it was rushed in some places. And I don't want to take too many points off from that. I'll take a full point off for Lady Irontown, I will. But I'll take a half a point off for Princess Mononoke's character, because I feel like she's a great character. I feel like it's a great idea. Someone born in the abandoned by her parents and raised in the forest by a wolf spirit, who eventually gets adopted into the wolf clan, who eventually learns the spirituality of the forest and ends up hating her own kind for being so evil against the forest. And Ashitaka's over here trying to broker peace between the humans and the forest. He's the one trying to see through eyes unclouded by hate. And that's the whole point of the story. Lady Ironwood looks at the forest with hate. Mononoke looks at Irontown with hate. And Ashitaka's looking at both without hate, trying to broker a peace between them to try to get them to stop fighting. I like that idea. I love the idea that he's trying to bridge a gap, but it just doesn't feel earned. Going back to Lady Irontown, she eventually kills the forest spirit, something that she should definitely be punished for. And Ashitaka and Mononoke have to return the head of the forest spirit to the Nightwalker. Let's talk about the forest spirit for a little bit. The Nightwalker is what the forest spirit's form takes at night. It's a giant thing that looks exactly like the creature in Avatar: The Last Airbender. At the end of Book 1, Water, when you see that one of the two Siamese twin fish dies, the other one turns into this giant thing wrecking everything. Yeah. That's basically the Nightwalker. So, I don't know which came first. I think Avatar took inspiration from the Nightwalker for their spirit. That's fine. It's a good movie to take inspiration from. But that's all that I could think of, was that creature in Avatar, because I saw Avatar first. Anyways, back to this. And then, that's what the forest spirit takes at night. He just travels through the forest, this giant thing. And then at night, he turns into, like, this deer with a human face. And so he's got the body of a deer, but the face of a human. Which kind of looks kind of creepy when you first look at him, but you get used to it. It's all very spiritual and very powerful, and it really works. So Lady Irontown kills the forest spirit, and just takes his head off. And then the Nightwalker shows up and starts to destroy everything. You see, the day form of the river spirit represents life. The night form of the river spirit represents death. It's a balance. And now that you've put the spirit out of balance, it has turned into the Nightwalker, which just destroys everything, human and nature alike. And you get the feel that a lot of people are dying. A lot of the people that Lady Irontown has brought here to help her put a stop to the forest spirits. They're all being killed by the Nightwalker right now. They're all dying. Many of them are dying. And then the miasma of the river spirit, of the forest spirit Nightwalker starts to attack Irontown too, and a lot of people are dying there. And the Asano clan's dying too from this stuff. Everybody. It doesn't matter what side you're on. They're all suffering for the actions of Lady Irontown. We're supposed to blame the mercenary leader. The film wants you to blame the mercenary leader for manipulating Lady Irontown into doing this, but I don't think so. Lady Irontown clearly harbored disdain for the forest all the way up to this point. She probably would have done this with or without the mercenary leader. The mercenary leader's only in this for the money. Lady Irontown is in it for a code. She believes that humans are above the forest and the forest spirit, and she believes that her people deserve better. They believe that she should industrialize and make her a settlement even stronger and larger to make life better for her people. That's the type of person she was introduced as. But then partway through, again, she just completely forgets Irontown. She don't want nothing to do with that place anymore. And it just doesn't make sense for her character. She kills the spirit, and then she loses an arm for her troubles. Her people spirit her off to safety. The forest spirit's head gets returned because Ashitaka and Mononoke end up tracking the head down and giving it back. And the forest spirit is appeased and goes away. And he also cures Ashitaka's curse after the head is returned. After he has brokered a peace between the humans and the forest, but he hasn't. This entire disaster has just made the humans vastly afraid of the forest, and they'll never want to do this again. They don't have a respect for the forest, they have a fear of it. Eyes unclouded by hate? Replaced with fear. So his curse is healed, and Lady Irontown is returned to Irontown. You see that only a portion of the women and the lepers survived the siege / goopy attack of the Nightwalker, and only a small fraction of her forces survived the whatever forest incursion she did. And everybody just, they're all so nice to her. They're all so very kind to Lady Irontown. She's not blamed at all. She's still the messiah of Irontown. She's going to rebuild Irontown just as good as it was before, if not better. And she thanks Ashitaka for what? For telling her not to do something, and she does it anyways, and then she pays the price for it? You're gonna thank him for not listening to him? She is so horribly written after her introduction. I can't get it. I can't get it. I love this movie. I give it an 8 out of 10, but those 2 points, they could have been a 10 out of 10 if she was just written better. And Mononoke needed to be a character rather than a plot device. I feel maybe if you added an extra 20 minutes to this film, give those 20 minutes primarily to Princess Mononoke and Lady Irontown, flesh out their motivations a little bit more, maybe this could have done a little bit better. At least I think so. See, this is the third one of Miyazaki's epics. I call them epics because they feel like it. Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, and Princess Mononoke. These 3 feel like epics. They're told like epics. And all 3 of them have a concept of respecting nature, and that industrialization will inevitably cause its own downfall if it learns to just disrespect nature and the wildlife around it. All three films have that exact same message. But the previous two were done so much better. And they came out before this one. Now let me look at the runtime here, because I seem to have forgotten exactly how long. I know it's over an hour and a half, but yeah, here we go. 134 minutes. You could have made this film 150 minutes, and it probably would have fixed a lot of these problems. Maybe rewrite Lady Irontown's character a little bit. Maybe make her motivations a little bit more believable, explainable, and all that other stuff. Maybe rewrite some of the dialogue of the mercenary leader talking with Lady Irontown and trying to manipulate her. Make that stuff believable. Make it believable that she would abandon Irontown once she begins her crusade into the forest. Because I don't believe she would. I don't believe she would. Her introduction was so powerful that she believed in this town so strongly and loved the people so much that this lady would abandon her mission into the forest to save her people without a second's hesitation. But then we see that she just says, oh, they're on their own now. And then her people forgive her for the chaos that happens, because they saw that her killing the forest spirit caused all the misfortune that had befallen them. And they just forgive her for it! The animation is beautiful. Every character save for Lady Irontown is very decent, is very nice. The color pops. The lines are delivered with believability and power. It all looks good. I just think the story in regards to Lady Irontown and Princess Mononoke could have been better. This is definitely the weakest of Miyazaki's three epics. The weakest. It might even be his weakest film. I suppose we'll find out when I eventually do all the rest of them. But right now, the rankings stand. Castle in the Sky is number 1. Nausicaa is number 2. Princess Mononoke is number 3. Be imaginative, everybody.